Welcome to I Still Stand, where Amy and Eddie highlight the power of educators in shaping lives and building a brighter future. Join us for expert insights, inspiring stories, and thought provoking discussions. Hello, listeners. I hope you all are doing well, having a blessed day, and I welcome Amy with me. Hello, Amy. How are you?
Hi, Adi. I'm doing quite well and getting ready for a snowstorm right now.
Oh, yes. We all have weather alerts. Yes. So, Amy, we were having a chat that we should be talking about the education basis. So, as an educator, if we talk about your professional journey and your professional career, can you please tell our listeners how did it went through?
Sure, Adi, and thank you for encouraging me to do this. I am an educator. I would like to introduce myself as an educator. If anybody asks me who I am, I'm very proud to say that I am a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
My mother's side of the family, we are all in education field, principals, teachers, and that's how I became interested in this field because I used to love, I'm from Sri Lanka,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Canadian. And growing up, I saw, my aunts getting dressed and, wearing beautiful saris and, going to work. And also in our culture, women didn't have to work long hours. And it was a very flexible job for them, where they went to school in the morning for 8 o'clock and they were home by 1:30.
So, it's your
Right?
normal tradition or it's just with your family?
No, that was the normal tradition in my mother's era
Oh, okay.
when I was a child, and that's what I saw. But back in the days, like even my grandmother and everyone didn't work in Sri Lanka, right? It was the man of the house who went to work and you know brought the was the breadwinner, while the women always stayed home,
Mm-hmm.
took care of the house chores and the children.
Okay.
Right? But I always wanted to go out to the workforce, and then seeing my aunts being teachers, and some are principals, and that really motivated me. Oh, this is actually not a bad idea because you can also be home for the most part of time, but you also go to get and serve the society a little bit. So that's how I got interested in becoming a teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did my high school in Sri Lanka in a very prestigious private school called Bishop's College. And I did bioscience. And at the time, we had some situations in the country, political situations. Universities, even private universities, even schools were closed. So after my A levels, I was trying to find, what I have to do. And my mother always said, you're going to be quite lazy if you stay home. So you're going to go to this school, which was actually behind my house. It was a Catholic school where the nuns ran this Montessori education center.
Okay.
And it was an affiliated um, a center that was affiliated to Netherlands, which was Dr. Maria Montessori's very own a Montessori training center. So 2 years I had an intense, learning. So that's where I learned, when you're an educator, you cannot make any mistakes because you are actually working with small children who are new to this world. They do not know how to open a door, they do not know how to sit, they do
And
not know how to eat.
what is the age where you start your Montessori education?
I started at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
I started at a very early age, and it took me 2 years to finish with practicals, and I had to have free field placements and all that. So I got the privilege to work for one of Auntie Joyce's schools as a placement student. And if you say Auntie Joyce, everybody knows because she's the one who brought these systems to Sri Lanka. So why
Okay.
I'm talking about this is, Adi,
Mm-hmm.
because this certification allows you to go and work anywhere in the world without getting certified from that any country's province.
Oh,
You
oh,
know,
that's
this is a
internationally
global,
recognized.
it is an internationally recognized certification, and this is done by Netherlands.
Okay.
So so my Montessori diploma is actually signed by Robert Montessori, and the examiners came from Netherlands. All the papers came from Netherlands. So from the original Montessori school of Dr. Maria Montessori, and that's how I started my journey in education.
Okay. So that's pretty interesting. And when we talk with educator, that's the key point where we ask them that, for example, I mean, in your case, that what encourages you to join uh, your field as an educator, and you mentioned that your aunts within your family, they were uh, idealizing perspective from your case. And then you said that the Montessori curriculum was started. That was the initial time when Montessori, it was new in that era.
No, it came to Sri Lanka in the 1944s,
Okay.
right? But it's been there for a very, very long time and well established and well known. So that was the first thing that came to my mother's mind while I was waiting home trying to figure out what my future education career is going to be like.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, before you figure something out, because the political situation in the country was pretty bad, and she did not want me to get disturbed by that. She said, it's best that you go and invest yourself in studying something, right? And it was actually behind my house, walking distance. So I thought, okay, why not? So it's a scientific way of learning and
Okay.
lots of psychology, and that's where I got attracted to psychology. And also, like I told you, um, growing up in a country where there were lots of political tensions, and I grew up through a war. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to find out what is the mindset that makes people want to hurt another person, right? Because this land really has no value without human beings, and I always believed that human can beings being nice to each other, and this place could be so much better. So I wanted to pursue my career in psychology, but this was the stepping stone. 2 years I had to learn psychology here at this program as well,
Okay.
and that's how I began my career as a teacher.
And that psychology is based on the child psychology, young, very young children psychology. How does it go? Or it is general, broad perspective of psychology.
No, so this was mostly child psychology because
Mm.
Dr. Maria Montessori was the first lady doctor in Italy, right? So she mostly wanted to help students with special needs. So
Oh,
she
okay.
made this very specific apparatus, like very specific materials to help children stimulate their interest. So she always believed that children have a mind like a sponge. And she also wrote a book called Absorbent Mind. So to a
Okay.
child, if you give something at a very early age in a
Mm-hmm.
human life, if you notice, if you speak to a child in 5 languages, they will learn that if you give it to them at a very early age. But for us as adults, it's a learning process. But for them, it is very spontaneous,
Because the mind
right?
is fresh, it's totally new, and they are
It's very,
able to absorb new things, right?
yes, and they are very inquisitive. So in a Montessori setting, everything is in neutral color, right? She
Mm.
doesn't want to disturb the children with like red and blue and all these many colors. She has a way to teach colors and shades to children, But if you notice in a Montessori setting, everything is neutral, and not most, all the materials are done in wood,
Yes.
using wood and natural materials. Why? Because she does not want to disturb the child with the environment. Environment works as a third teacher, right? So
Okay.
her focus was more on stimulating these children's interest, say in color or in language. By the time a child finish a Montessori school, they learn subtraction, addition, multiplication, division, writing sentences, cursive letters, colors and all the shades, what are fractions. It's a very complex syllabus, but you teach to a child in a very productive way, step by step. So when I was studying at St. Bridget's, this program, I
Mm-hmm.
have to mention my teachers, Sister Stanislaus and Auntie Surangani. They were my mentors. I still talk to them. I still look up to them. Their advice is very important to me even now. Like every time I visit, I go and see them. I remember I'm a very neat person. I'm very, very neat. Whatever I do is very clean, right? But there
Mm-hmm.
have been rejections from Sister Stanislaus would tell me, take a circle. She would put her two fingers around the circle and she would reject, no, this circle is not a circle. You have to do it again. So
Okay.
I always question myself, why is this not? This is a perfect circle. And then she would put her fingers around the edge and say, see,
Okay.
you like your fingers are not going right around when you touch that, because with children what she was trying to teach me was, with children you cannot make a mistake, because you're actually dealing with a human life who's going to grow up to be an adult to the society.
So it needs perfection,
It
pure
needs
to perfection.
perfection.
Yes.
Perfection. So that's where I started my journey, and then I moved to USA for my personal reasons. And then I was also working there for 10 years for a Montessori school in
Mm-hmm.
New York as a supervisor.
Okay.
And that's when I started feeling I want to get into psychology more deeply. And for me to get into psychology more deeply, I wanted to get into the public system. And to get
Mm-hmm.
into the public system, Montessori AMI Association, Montessori International was not sufficient. So in other countries, you have to be a registered educator, registered early childhood educator to
Okay.
get into the public schools.
Okay. So if a
So,
youngster come to you and ask you, as a youngster, how should I pursue my career in this early child educators program? So how would you like to guide them at this current point of time, considering the North American region?
yeah. So my start was quite different, Adi, because when I was in the USA, I was on a student visa, and the studying there was very, very expensive, right? So living there for 10 years and studying, and I thought, I need to get my visa status, changed, so
Okay.
I can, get a student's loan, or I can, seek some government assistance in order to do my studies. So I wanted to obviously do psychology, and I had to backtrack that path.
Okay.
And then I figured out, where I have to start is to become an RACE, where I can get into the public system and actually sit and work with the child. So the Montessori system would only allow me to work for a Montessori sitting, which is mostly the private sector.
Yes.
Okay, so I wanted to be a registered early childhood educator and explore working in multiple school districts. So I get to explore different families, different family backgrounds, and how these children come and what are their behavioral issues, what are the problems with the parents. So through all this, after I moved to Canada after 10 years living in USA as a
Okay.
landed immigrant.
Mm-hmm.
And so I came with a plan wanting to study this. So then I got into Seneca College and started studying my for my ECE,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a 2 year program, and that gave me the opportunity to get into the public sector and work with a lot of families that came from multi different countries. Their values were different, their cultures were different, their needs were different,
So
right? So that's how I got into this registered early childhood educator profession. And then from there, while I was working, I found out that the children and the parents are having lots of psychological problems. Parents would come and tell me, this is our first child. We don't know what to do. My child was diagnosed with autism. What do I do? My child is having, there will be parents having family issues coming to me. And during that time, I thought I want to get a certification to be a proper counselor, um, in as means of building resilience in children and parents. Parents also live. Most of them live here alone. Immigrant families.
yes, yes.
So I did this reach in, reach out for adults and children. It's called Build for Resiliency, and it
Okay.
is a very recognized certification as well. And that helped me to help the parents as to what they should do with children who are having challenging behaviors, who are having special needs, and who are having difficulty in curricular areas. How do you help them outside school? And I was able to build resilience into them, and I was also able to build resiliency into children too.
So I mean, you started as an Montessori
Mm-hmm,
teacher, got trained over there, and then you went into the education for early child care basis. You came up with the public sector
mm-hmm,
certification. You did your co-op, your placement, and then you moved on to this certification, as you said, that
mm-hmm.
which cater the special child assistance and their needs and the parent counseling perspective as well, which is being covered in this.
Correct, correct.
Oh,
And this gave me an opportunity to work actually with parents in the Texas district schools and Calgary district schools, and also in the Toronto district school boards. So I got a knowledge of how, like, the different needs of families. So when I was with the Texas district schools, they were a lot toward, the community was more Mexican, so
mhm.
their needs were very different from a school district in Toronto,
Okay.
right? Because in Toronto, I felt like um, multicultural society. In the North York area where I was working before, it was mostly like European based. And then when I was moving a little bit more into Scarborough, they were like all Asians there. Those parents only wanted their children to know mathematics and English and, do well in subject matter,
Okay.
right? And then when I was working for Calgary schools too, I worked for a very big edutech company there in Calgary, but I did
Hmm.
that virtually. Um, and then I knew their needs were way more different. So no, having that exposure was very important to me. So during this time, because I had an honors grade from honors, pass from my ECE.
Hmm.
I was exempt. I wanted to do an honors degree because obviously I wanted to get into University of Toronto to do psychology and human development. So it really required an honors degree. So I applied to do Bachelor's of Child Development honors degree, and they
Okay.
said, to my surprise, it's a 4 year degree, but because you have an honors pass from my, RERO and my ECE, that they will exempt 2 years from me. So I was able to finish that program in 2 years as well, full time.
Okay. So you got the exemptions because of your career path and the journey which you had, your experience and all such things. That's the reason
Yes,
behind the
that's the
exemption.
reason. So that's where I got to study a lot about special needs students. I did a lot of projects, I did a lot of workshops for special needs students, you know, made a lot of materials for special needs students. And I also spoke to, you know, worked with parents who wanted help for special needs students. And then from there, I did my master's at the University of Toronto in applied psychology and human development, and
Okay.
that's where I actually wanted to be. But you know, the journey, you cannot jump right there, so it took me all these avenues to get to my final destination where I wanted to be.
That's great. I mean, that's wonderful when we uh, listen to journey like professions like yourself, and there are so many others, those who have worked so hard and they have been through all this process. We realize that in everyone's life there's an importance of mentors. There are different ups and downs of life which teach us which way we should lead ourselves, and then we realize what is our strength, what is our weakness, what is our area of interest, and accordingly we jump into the career. We get some experience, and you rightly pointed out that when you went through the public sector and when you came across these questions from the parents, then you realize the importance of the questions which parents are placing to you.
Mm-hmm,
And apart from that, you also mentioned that the importance of psychology, applied
mm-hmm,
psychology from
mm-hmm,
students' point of view, from young child point of view, and there are child those who have some special needs. Those
mm-hmm,
are very important to address. So, I mean, that's wonderful, and we are not going to stop over here. We are going to
mm-hmm,
give a pause to this continuation of the talk because we are going to split this conversation in different breaks. So,
mm-hmm,
I'm going to invite you again for the next communication as well, and
mm-hmm.
we will talk in further details about this. As you have mentioned, you have wealth of experience. We would like to learn more from you, Amy. What do you say about this?
Yes, yes, I strongly believe in that. I just wanted to explain my journey to you, but I would like to focus more on early childhood educators, Adi, because that is a sector that works extremely hard to build our future, to build our society, right? But
Hmm.
they are not highlighted anywhere,
That's
right? The
wonderful, Amy.
reason why, yes.
Thanks to you, we were having a conversation on this, and we came up with this topic that's the area which we should focus,
Mm-hmm,
since we know in society uh, this area is not yet being so much highlighted. And you
mm-hmm,
rightly pointed out that if we do really need to talk about this, there are so many different aspects which has to be covered.
mm-hmm.
So
Yes, so thank you for having me for today, and I look forward to meet you soon.
thank you, Amy. Thanks for your time, and your wealth of experience is going to be fruitful for all the listeners, including myself as well. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to our podcast. If you have any comments or if you want to discuss on a specific topic, please do write to us. We hope you subscribe to our social media platform. Talk to you next time.